Good evening, night dwellers, and welcome back to the Haunt Vault, the channel where the shadows come alive and your deepest fears take shape. Tonight, we have a story that will make you think twice the next time you hit the open road at dusk. We all crave the comfort of home after a long, grueling week, but what if the road that's supposed to take you there leads you straight into the heart of a nightmare? Our story tonight follows Emily, a young woman looking forward to a peaceful weekend at her parents' house. But as the sun sets and she takes to the highway, the familiar path home becomes something far more sinister. What begins as a simple stop at an old gas station quickly spirals into a terrifying ordeal, one from which there may be no escape. So, settle in, turn down the lights, and let the darkness of the night envelop you as we dive into tonight's tale. Emily's Long Road.
Emily was looking forward to visiting her parents for the weekend. After enduring a grueling week of exams, the thought of home was the only thing that kept her going. It was late afternoon when she finally set out on the road, the sun beginning its slow descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the highway. As the day faded, so did her tension, replaced by the familiar comfort of the road and the promise of home. The first couple of hours passed uneventfully, the steady hum of the engine lulling her into a state of calm. But as her gas gauge dipped toward empty, she began to keep an eye out for a gas station. The sun was almost gone now, the sky bruised with the deep purples and blues of twilight. It wasn't long before she spotted a small, dimly lit station at the edge of a dense forest. The sign flickered ominously, its letters barely visible through layers of peeling paint. It looked like it hadn't seen a customer in years, but she had no other choice. She pulled in, the gravel crunching under her tires, and parked next to one of the ancient pumps. The place was unnervingly quiet, the silence pressing in on her like a physical weight. Not a single car was in sight, and the station itself looked as if it had been frozen in time, a relic of a forgotten era. As she stepped out of the car, a cold shiver ran down her spine. The windows of the small building were so dirty that they appeared almost opaque, giving the unsettling impression that the place was watching her. Despite the unease that gnawed at her, Emily shrugged it off and began filling up her tank. The air around her was thick, almost suffocating, and the only sound was the steady trickle of gas into her car. She tried to keep her mind on the road ahead, on the comfort of home waiting for her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When she finished, she decided to use the restroom before getting back on the road. The restroom was in a small, dingy building behind the gas station, separated from the main structure by a narrow, overgrown path. As she approached, the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. The building was in worse condition than the station itself. Dim lighting, cracked tiles, and a mirror so shattered it barely reflected anything at all. The air inside was damp and stale, carrying a faint, musty odor that clung to her clothes. She hurried through her business, her nerves frayed, and rushed back outside, eager to leave. As she walked back to her car, she noticed a figure standing in the doorway of the gas station. The cashier, a tall, gaunt man with sunken eyes and a twisted smile, watched her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. His eyes were too dark, like black pits that seemed to suck in the light, and his smile was more of a grimace, stretching his thin lips over yellowed teeth.
"Thank you,"
she mumbled, her voice trembling slightly as she handed him cash for the gas, avoiding eye contact. The man took the money without a word, his bony fingers brushing against hers, sending an icy chill through her. His touch felt wrong, too cold, too lingering. As she turned to leave, his voice sliced through the heavy silence like a knife.
"See you soon,"
he said, his tone laced with something that sent a bolt of fear through her. It wasn't just a casual farewell, it was a promise. Emily froze, her heart skipping a beat, but she forced herself to keep walking. She climbed into her car, locking the doors the moment she was inside, and sped away, gravel spraying behind her as she fled. As she drove down the dark rural road, the trees seemed to close in around her, their branches arching over the road like skeletal fingers. The road was deserted, not a single car in sight, and the only light came from her headlights, which barely penetrated the oppressive darkness. The cashier's words echoed in her mind, a sinister refrain that made her grip the steering wheel tighter. An hour passed, but it felt like much longer. The road seemed endless, stretching on and on through the night. The scenery never changed. Dark trees, twisting road, no sign of civilization. Emily's sense of disorientation grew with each passing minute, her thoughts spiraling into a frantic loop. And then, without warning, a red light blinked on her dashboard. Her gas tank was nearly empty again. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had just filled up. How could she be out of gas? She just got fuel at that creepy old gas station an hour ago. Panic clawed at her as she searched desperately for any sign of life. Then, just ahead, she saw it, a dimly lit sign flickering in the distance. Relief washed over her, but as she drew closer, dread settled in the pit of her stomach like a lead weight.
It can't be.
She gasped in horror. It was the same gas station. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she pulled into the gravel lot, her mind racing.
How could this be possible?
She had driven for miles. There was no way she could have ended up back here. The gas station looked exactly as it had before, right down to the flickering sign and the dirty windows. But now, the place felt even more sinister, as if the very air was charged with malevolence. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, the darkness deeper. She considered turning around and driving back the way she came, but the gas gauge was nearly on empty. She had no choice. Steeling herself, she parked by the pump and got out of the car. The night air was unnaturally still, the silence almost deafening, as if the world was holding its breath. As she started pumping gas, she kept glancing toward the gas station, half expecting to see the cashier watching her again. The building seemed empty, the dirty windows dark and uninviting, but just as she finished, she noticed movement inside. The door creaked open, and the same gaunt man stepped out, his twisted smile widening as he saw her.
I told you,
he said softly, his voice carrying easily through the still night air.
See you soon.
Terror gripped her, icy and relentless, as if a cold hand had closed around her heart. She jumped back into her car, her hands shaking as she started the engine. The man's eyes followed her every move, that same twisted smile etched on his face. She peeled out of the lot, the gravel spraying like bullets as she sped away, desperate to escape the nightmare that seemed to be closing in on her. But as she drove, the road seemed to stretch on forever, the trees growing denser, the darkness closing in like a suffocating shroud. The headlights barely cut through the blackness, and the world outside her car felt like it was being swallowed by the night. Time lost all meaning as she drove, her fear mounting with each passing mile. And when she finally saw a light in the distance, her stomach twisted with a sickening sense of déjà vu. It was the same gas station again. No matter how far or fast she drove, she couldn't escape it. The road looped back to the same spot, over and over, the flickering sign and twisted smile of the cashier waiting for her each time. The fear that had been gnawing at her now exploded into full-blown panic. She was trapped in an endless nightmare, with no way out, and the last thing she heard before everything went dark was the man's voice, echoing in her mind.
See you soon.
Emily's world collapsed into a void of darkness. The twisted smile of the gaunt man burned into her mind. And in the suffocating silence that followed, The only sound was the slow, rhythmic crunch of gravel underfoot, as if someone or something was drawing ever closer.
See you soon.
And so, dear night dwellers, we've reached the end of another dark tale. What did you think of Emily's harrowing journey? Could you feel the tension, the creeping dread that followed her every turn? We hope this story has sent a chill down your spine and kept you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us bring more spine-tingling stories your way. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the Haunt Vault so you never miss a night of terror. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment below and let us know what kind of stories you'd like to hear next. Do you have a favorite urban legend, a haunting experience of your own, or perhaps there's a classic horror tale you're dying to see us bring to life? Whatever it is, we're all ears and shadows. Until next time, sleep tight. If you can, remember, the night is full of secrets, and sometimes it's better not to know what's lurking just beyond the light.